Hello and welcome back to my humble show. I am your host for today and every other day, the Articulate Thinker. Hopefully, here to bring you art, articles, and articulation straight from Articulation Station. So be sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it. If you like it, put a ring on it. Sharing is caring, all that other good stuff. Hope you're having a great day, great week so far. I can't complain. There is a lot going on in the world right now. In regards to, well, what is happening over in Israel and Gaza, more specifically, well, will there be a full-scale ground incursion? Only time will tell, I suppose. I believe a couple more hostages were set free by Hamas, though not in the humanitarian way they seem to suggest. I think it's just something to buy them some more time with this looming ground incursion, which may or may not happen. I mean, who knows? There's the question of whether or not Hezbollah will continue to get involved, so on and so forth. The allies, loosely speaking, of Hamas. And if they do, if those other militias, terrorist groups, nations, countries even, get involved, will we get involved even more than we already are? Of course, there is funding on the floor of the House. Well, not really. Not really, since there is no Speaker of the House still, which is what I'm going to be talking about. No Speaker in the House. And therefore, no new packages can be passed right now, much to the dismay of the Biden administration. They want more money to be sent. More funding, as though we can fund any more wars, which is what is going on. I'm not saying we shouldn't. You know, I try to keep an open mind on all of this. I don't really have a lot of hardline position when it comes to foreign policy, because there are positives and negatives to every single decision, it seems like. It's just that the decisions of the Biden administration haven't gotten us very far thus far, have they? In fact, things are looking a lot worse around the world than they were just a few years ago, aside from COVID. And I'm not going to sit here and claim that Donald Trump is the savior or anything like that. You know, I don't feel that way. So I am kind of in limbo myself on a lot of these issues. I just try to cover them fairly and squarely. And like I said, keep an open mind on things. And feel free to disagree with me on anything I do say. Let me know in the comments below what you think, what you know. I'm no expert. Heaven knows. But this is my show. So welcome. Hope you stick around, find out. As I click around and find out about the latest in the House Speaker race. The race for House Speakership, which currently has Tom Emmer in the lead. Here's a headline from Fox News. Emmer secures GOP Speaker nomination after Republicans meet. Behind closed doors, I believe, as they have done many times at this point, because they just cannot get their act together. But will he get any further than the other candidates, the other nominees? Not likely. But as you can see, yes, he indeed secured the Republican nomination for House Speaker after fifth vote. There's a photo of him. Sorry, my big old face is in the way. Maybe I should decrease the size of my face. Well, now my software is frozen. Can you hear me now? Can you see me now? Maybe I didn't even freeze up on your end. I froze up on my end. That's a little better. All right, so about Tom Emmer, in case you're wondering, as was I, here is his biography from his emmer.house.gov biography page. It's on his government website. I'm not extremely familiar with the man. I hear a lot of people calling him a RINO, starting with the aforementioned Donald Trump. Though I will show you how he has not exactly kept that same energy. I'll show you. I'll show you how Donald Trump has not kept that same energy. That is no surprise. He is all over the place in his support of different people, different politicians. But first, let me get to this biography here from this government website. Congressman Tom Emmer was sworn in for his first term, in the U.S. House of Representatives on January 6th of 2015. He is currently serving his 5th term. After serving as the chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee for the 116th Congress and again for the 117th Congress, Tom was elected by his fellow Republican colleagues to be the House Majority Whip. Currently, he sits on the House Financial Services Committee. How many committees? It's a little quiz question for you. How many committees are there in the House? In D.C.? I'm not really sure. Can't tell you that. Okay, so as for the rest of this, born in 1961, Tom grew up in Minnesota and attended St. Thomas Academy. He received his B.A. in political science from the University of Alaska, Fairbanks, and his J.D. From William Mitchell College of Law. I have an aunt who lives in... Is it Fairbanks or Anchorage? Somewhere in there. I've never been there. All right. After practicing law for several years, he opened his own law firm. The next 20 years were spent balancing family, business, coaching hockey, and serving on the city councils in Independence and Delano. Before coming to Congress, he served in the Minnesota House of Representatives from 2004 to 2008. He and his wife, Jackie, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, have been married for over 30 years and have 7 children. Wow, very prosperous. They reside in Delano. Click here for official photo. I'll go ahead and do that. And I might very well use this as a thumbnail for my show. Yes, that'll work. Great. Pausing for full effect. Okay. There's my thumbnail for today's show. As for a little bit more information about Tom Emmer, well, here over on the Google, you can see the names of his kids. Once again, the name of his spouse, Jacqueline. So yeah, Jackie. The name of my mother-in-law. Previous office, education, yada, 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 bing, bing, boom. I don't really care. But I thought you might wonder who he is, as did I. I say I don't really care because some of these politicians, so many of them, seem to be cardboard copy cutouts of each other. Cardboard cutout copies of each other. Or something like that. But hey, that's how origami works, I suppose. Now, here's what Donald Trump had to say about him. On Truth Social earlier today, I have many wonderful friends wanting to be Speaker of the House, and some are truly great warriors. RINO Tom Emmer, who I do not know well, is not one of them. He never respected the power of a Trump endorsement. The power of a Trump endorsement. How's that been working out for you lately? Or the breadth and scope of MAGA. Make America Great Again. In bold letters. He fought me all the way and actually spent more time defending Ilhan Omar. I don't know if that's true. I'm not sure. Than he did me. He is totally out of touch with Republican voters. I believe he has now learned his lesson because he is saying that he is pro-Trump all the way, but who can ever be sure? Yeah, who can ever be sure what you yourself think, Donald Trump? I'll explain that. Has he only changed because that's what it takes to win? The Republican Party cannot take the chance because that's not where the America First voters are. Voting for a globalist RINO like Tom Emmer would be a tragic mistake. So, a couple of points in response to what Trump had to say there. He said that he does not know Tom Emmer well, but he dismissed him as a RINO. Okay, so based upon your knowledge of him or based upon what other people are saying about him? Are you just echoing the talking points of someone else? I don't know. I just know that a lot of people are calling him a RINO. Maybe he just scrolled through his timelines and said, oh, look, people are calling Tom Emmer a RINO. Guess he's a RINO. Let me criticize him. Just speculating. I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying he's the one who says he doesn't really know him that well. So how can you make that judgment? Well, he does speak about this power of the Trump endorsement, which he gave to Jim Jordan before Jim Jordan failed. In fact, Jim Jordan failed, seemingly, straight out of the gate. And when Steve Scalise was voted over him in the behind closed doors nomination early on, of course, Steve Scalise couldn't get the votes. Ultimately, he dropped out. Jim Jordan gave it a shot after that, and he couldn't get the votes despite the power of the Trump endorsement. And now it's just line him up and knock him down. On to the next. And the next happens to be Tom Emmer, who Donald Trump is criticizing, despite having previously praised. And I keep saying I'll explain that. I will. But he speaks to Tom Emmer. I keep wanting to say Tom Tillis. Tom Emmer defending Ilhan Omar. I, again, don't know if that's true or not. Don't know whether that's true or not. Trump actually says that Tom Emmer is saying that he is pro-Trump. So wouldn't that normally be enough to guarantee an endorsement from Donald Trump? Doesn't he love it when people are pro-Trump? Maybe Tom Emmer is inconsistent. Maybe he doesn't keep that same energy. I know that Donald Trump has not kept that same energy. Can't really speak to Tom Emmer, but I can speak to Donald Trump, who had this to say just over a year ago. He said, Tom Emmer is an outstanding representative of the people of Minnesota in Congress. Tom is working hard to grow the economy, secure the border, defend the Second Amendment, and hold criminals accountable. He strongly advocates for our brave men and women in law enforcement. And he supports our America First agenda. Tom is doing a great job as chairman of the NRCC, and he has my complete and total endorsement. Complete and total endorsement. Gotta love that power of the endorsement, the Trump endorsement. Total endorsement for re-election to Minnesota's 6th Congressional District. So, in just over a year, Donald Trump went from he is great, he is America First, he supports this, that, and the other thing, all of which I'm on board with, being Mr. MAGA myself, great job as chairman, he has my complete and total endorsement. Went from that, all of that, and a bag of chips, to, once again, this RINO Tom Emmer. So which is it, Donald Trump? Did you not know him then either? If so, then why did you endorse him then? So you didn't know him then, you didn't know him now, but, well, you don't know him now. And yet, you're making these very definitive statements about him, the individual. See, you may be right now, even if you were wrong then. But still, like, it's so frustrating for me, politically speaking. So many times I oppose a position, and I want to therefore agree with the people who are in agreement with me, right? Obviously. But people who I want to agree with turn out to be so inconsistent in their own end, it makes me question whether or not I'm even correct in my beliefs, in my positions. You know, if I'm like, I hold this position, and I stand with these people who hold this position, and then it turns out that those people, whether it's the Donald Trumps of the world or the Tom Tillises of the world or any Democrat, for that matter, and they turn out to be completely wishy-washy, flip-floppy. It's like a political sloppy Joe, policy-wise and endorsement-wise. That makes me question, for one, whether or not I actually stand with any of them. And for two, whether or not I should even stand by my own positions. Since everything that may have influenced my beliefs in the first place could just be based upon the incorrect, the inaccurate beliefs of other people. That's why I try my best to keep an open mind, because I don't want to just be on here echoing talking points that, well, you might read in these social media posts on Truth Social or Twitter or wherever, where people are just flippantly saying, oh, this person is a RINO, that person is a RINO. Like I said, I don't know too much about Tom Emmer, but I'm not going to condemn him just because Donald Trump is condemning him. I mean, if I were to do that at face value, then what? A year ago, I should have been praising him just because Donald Trump was praising him? Like, pick a side, dude. That shouldn't be all about side picking, so maybe that's where we go wrong. But it's especially detrimental to the party, bunch of party poopers, when people within the party are taking sides against each other. And that's precisely why we don't currently have a House Speaker, and why it doesn't look like we're going to have one anytime soon. Because Tom Emmer isn't going to get the votes, is he? Here's an article from The Hill. Emmer wins GOP speaker nod, but lacks votes on floor. Live coverage. All right. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer emerged Tuesday as the Republican conference's nominee for House Speaker as the chamber tries to elect a leader. It took 5 rounds to vote, or 5 rounds of votes, to get to consensus. Not that it's enough, right? There was consensus for Jim Jordan, but it wasn't enough ultimately. Emmer beat House Republican Conference Chair or Vice Chair Mike Johnson in the final round. I actually like Mike Johnson. I don't say that about many politicians. I don't know that I would like him if I knew everything about him, but as far as what I know about him, I like him all right. But it almost immediately became clear he didn't have 217 votes to take the House floor yet. Back to Tom Emmer. Lawmakers estimated there may be around 20 holdouts, and Emmer can only lose 4 votes. So some of the ones who oppose Kevin McCarthy are going to oppose Tom Emmer. I've seen some people making statements about not supporting him. They're guaranteeing that they will not support him. Well, if it's around 20 holdouts, you're screwed. And that's about how many it was for Jim Jordan too, but slightly different set of people. Because Jim Jordan is much more MAGA, as Donald Trump said. So he got that much right. I don't know that Tom Emmer is quite as MAGA as some might say. Well, wait a second. As Trump once said. But, you know, one of the things he stands in support of, is funding for Ukraine. So people call that a RINO position. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. I believe Emmer supports funding Ukraine, which, again, is considered by some to be a RINO position. All right. Was it a RINO position to fund or support Ukraine back when Donald Trump was sending them Javelin missiles? Was that a RINO position? That was one of his favorite talking points during the first impeachment. You know? Over the supposed quid pro quo, which was nonsensical, but, you know. Hypocrites are all around us. And even now, Donald Trump, he claims to be ending the war once he becomes president, hypothetically speaking, in 24 hours over in Ukraine. Fat chance of that happening, right? But he has also suggested that if it does not, he will fund Ukraine even more than Russia can even imagine. So, I don't know what in the world Trump's foreign policy position is in regards to Ukraine at this point. I'm just saying there are a lot of positions taking into consideration the COVID vaccine, right? A lot of people consider Republicans who push it to be RINOs. Who pushed it first and foremost? Donald Trump. So, it's just weird hearing MAGA language come from Donald Trump, and and from his supporters, and then they maintain these positions that Trump doesn't even maintain. And if he does, it's not for any extensive amount of time. He may just flip-flop at any given point. It depends upon who is endorsing him, I suppose, right? When he talks about the power of the endorsement, he mostly bases who he is endorsing on who is endorsing him. That's what it seems like at this point. If he feels that people are personally benefiting him, politically speaking, he endorses them. He personally benefits them. Though I don't think his own endorsement means as much as he thinks it does anymore, considering some of the losses his supported candidates have taken in the last couple of election cycles, midterms included. All right, Representative Tim Burchett is an Emmer supporter and said he would back him on the House floor, but doesn't think Emmer's candidacy will make it that far. Why? In part because of former President Trump's tweet against Emmer, or a lob over the hedges, as Burchett called it. I think we're back to square one, Burchett said, telling the Hill he thinks it's impacting other people's support too at this point, and that he's spoken to several people that pulled off. Sorry I can't enlarge this text anymore. I'm trying, but it's not working. Blame the ads over here on the Hill. So yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't know that Trump's endorsement is going to push anyone over the top. It seems to turn some off, obviously. And that's the problem. If you get the Trump endorsement, then you got like 20 Republicans who are like, no, we don't want you then. We don't want anyone who Trump wants. But then if you don't get the Trump endorsement, if you get the Trump attack, the opposed, then you lose about 20 different Republicans, because they're like, if Trump doesn't like them, they must not be any good. So, yeah, that's why they're in limbo. That's why they're in their own little house crisis, stuck right in the epicenter of it. Marjorie Taylor Greene explained in a post on X, formerly Twitter, why she didn't back Emmer, his voting record. He voted for Democrat gay marriage bill, voted with Democrats to overturn President Trump's transgender military ban, voted for every penny of Ukraine funding, as I mentioned, at one time supported the Soros National Popular Vote Scheme, and voted to certify Biden's 2020 election, she tweeted. All right, pretty much everyone voted to certify Biden's 2020 election. I guess she thinks pretty much every Republican in Congress is a RINO. I don't know what she thinks. Yeah, not the biggest fan. And I might agree with her on most of the things she's saying here. I might not agree with Tom Emmer. But at what point do you have to come together and pick a nominee unanimously? She says, we need a Republican speaker that reflects the values of Republican voters that can lead our conference, Greene said. Okay, Republican voters don't all agree. Now, I would prefer Jim Jordan over Tom Emmer, I think. But who really knows? I'm kind of confused at this point. But if you can't make that happen, I'm not going to feel all that sorry for you. Emmer gets praise for his openness. So some are praising him as well. Several GOP lawmakers praised Emmer for his style of immediately meeting with holdouts to his candidacy in a setting open to the Congress. Well, maybe he's open-minded. Can't fault him for that, even if I fault him for some of his positions. All right, I'm not going to read any more of these quotes. This article goes on and on and on. Just some updates. Johnson even endorses Emmer, vows to finish this today. So he wants to make it happen. So, points of humility to him. He got knocked out by Emmer, and he said, hey, I can still support him. That's kind of what Jim Jordan did with Steve Scalise, and Steve Scalise did with Jim Jordan. But there are holdouts at the end of every day, it seems. And I think Donald Trump should just stay out of it at this point. I do. I don't think he's helping anyone. Here's an article from yesterday, I believe. Here's where speaker candidates stood on 4 key votes. Because yes, it's not just Emmer and Johnson. There are several other candidates: Jack Bergman, Austin Scott, Kevin Hearn. Heard there was a possibility of him making it to the top. Byron Donalds, heard there was a possibility of him making it to the top. Pete Sessions, Dan Mauser, and Gary Palmer. I didn't think Byron Donalds would have too much of a chance overall because, I mean, if Jim Jordan couldn't get enough votes, how is Byron Donalds going to get enough votes? I know he has a bit of clout behind him, a lot of energy as well. He's a young guy. Debt ceiling bill. So Emmer voted yes on that. So did Johnson. Donalds voted no. I won't mention everyone else. On the latest continuing resolution, Emmer voted yes. Johnson switched to no. And in this one, Byron Donalds did not vote. On Ukraine aid, well, we know what Emmer voted. He voted yes. Johnson voted no. Donalds voted no. I'm not even mentioning Hearn. I know he was being talked about as a potential candidate, potential nominee. I mean, but I'm just trying to, for the sake of time, speed through this as much as possible. Let's see here. Here's how each speaker candidate voted on the objections on certifying the 2020 election. Emmer opposed objections to both Arizona and Pennsylvania's election results. Okay, so maybe I didn't specify on this enough. This is more state-to-state basis. Hearn voted to object to both the Arizona and Pennsylvania election results. Johnson voted to object to the election results in both Arizona and Pennsylvania, as did Donalds. All right, so I thought this was on the initial election certification day, which did not go so well over in D.C. on January 6th. J6. Yeah, a lot of these Congress members did more locally object to election results. But they are now willing to support Emmer. So are they also RINO? So if you say, and I made this point before, if you say Emmer is a RINO, Johnson is not, and then Johnson says, hey, I'll support Emmer, does that then make Johnson a RINO as well? Because if so, then almost every single person in Congress is a RINO, according to your own logic. So where do you draw the line? Where are they allowed to disagree, and where are they not? And I would hope that regardless of all the above, they could still agree on enough at the end of the day to appoint a Speaker of the House, for goodness sakes, because the negatives of just sitting stagnant indefinitely are beginning to outweigh the positives of picking the perfect candidate, as though that exists. Trump as House Speaker would be the duck-billed platypus of politics. This is an article from Fox News. I was going to read into it a bit, but I think I'm out of time. Yeah, I'm out of time. I gotta go. Hopefully you enjoyed my show. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Well, you know. But yes, I've spoken to this very, very hypothetical theory of Trump being the House Speaker. I've spoken about that in the past. It's kind of a blast from the past. It wasn't meant to last. But yeah. Imagine Trump being the president of the United States. Oh, wait, he already was. Was he a good one? Was he a bad one? Either way, doesn't change the fact that he is very inconsistent. Doesn't change the fact, in my humble opinion, that he should just stay out of this. Let him fight it out. Because every time he takes a position, every time he makes an endorsement, he's over the top. He's so over the top that he throws more fire on the flames of division. He throws more oil on the flames of division. There. How do you throw fire? But I've said my piece. So, to each their own. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Keep in touch. Keep in tune. New content is coming soon. Peace.